7. Powerful spiritual symptoms. You're experiencing a final awakening, not going crazy. Prepare yourself. Not in the way you would for a deadline, a task, or a test. Prepare in the way that an ancient temple prepares before a sacred rite. Because if these sensations have been showing up in your life quietly at first, then all at once you are not simply going through a change. You are standing on the edge of a rupture, a sacred dismantling, the final undoing of who you thought you were. This is not the kind of shift you read about in books or discuss over coffee. This is the kind that tears through your illusions like a lightning bolt, the kind that shakes the roots of your identity and demands that you question everything: your choices, your patterns, your purpose. But it doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to liberate you. Because before a soul awakens fully, it must first remember how it forgot. Chosen ones do not awaken in comfort. They awaken in chaos. In the falling apart of certainty, in the painful clarity that what used to fit no longer feels like home. But this isn't the end. It's the passage, a strange in-between place where your old life dissolves and the new one hasn't yet arrived, a spiritual liminality. And it begins with symptoms, not the kind that can be measured with instruments or explained by logic. These are signals from the soul, not suggestions but sacred alarms. They don't whisper, they thunder. The first of these symptoms is a rupture in time itself. 1. You feel like time is breaking apart, and you're floating between realities. Suddenly, the world around you begins to distort, not visually, not physically, but subtly. Underneath the surface, the rhythm of reality begins to falter. Clocks seem absurd and schedules meaningless. You'll sit for 10 minutes and feel like hours have passed. Or blink and somehow find yourself at nightfall, wondering where the day escaped. This isn't poor time management. This is dimensional dislocation. What's really happening is that your energy, your essence, is beginning to unhook from linear time. The illusion of past, present, and future as separate events is beginning to dissolve. You are slipping, quietly but undeniably, and into a state known by mystics and seers as multi-dimensional perception. In this state, your spirit no longer orbits around the clock. It begins to operate across timelines that run parallel, converge, and overlap. It's disorienting. You may forget what day it is, or walk into a room and not remember why. You may feel a sense of déjà vu not once, but daily. You might swear you've lived a moment before or that something is about to happen. And then it does. These are not memory glitches. These are fragments of simultaneous existence surfacing in your awareness. This temporal distortion is the soul's way of preparing you for a greater bandwidth of reality. A field where past lives echo, future timelines whisper, and unseen dimensions shimmer just beyond your human senses. Your mind may try to rationalize it, to tether you back to the old framework of hours and days. But your spirit is not interested in punctuality. It's interested in expansion. And here's where it gets even more mysterious. The more time seems to warp around you, the more likely you are approaching a massive download, a spiritual data burst of insight, remembrance, or instruction. These downloads may arrive in dreams, in a passing sentence from a stranger, or in a sudden wave of knowing so overwhelming that you have to stop what you're doing and just breathe. Don't resist it. Don't chase it either. Let it move through you. Let your nervous system recalibrate. This isn't dysfunction. It's dissolution. The old mental grids designed to keep you focused on survival. Repetition, routine are fading so that something vaster can emerge. This can be terrifying, especially if you've built your life around control, logic, or predictability. But chosen ones are not here to manage time. They are here to bend it, walk past it, transcend it. Time was never meant to be a cage. It was a construct, and now the construct is cracking. Some days you'll feel like you're floating. Other days like you're anchored to a memory that isn't yours. That's okay. Your soul is traveling, and sometimes it takes your body with it. The key is to stay grounded while expanding. Breathe into the now, even as your awareness slides into the beyond. Practice anchoring tools. Walk barefoot. Drink water with intention. Place your hands on your heart and say, I allow myself to be here, even when here feels vast. Because this moment, this fluctuation, this slippage isn't a mistake. It's a marker, a signpost that you're approaching something the world doesn't have language for. Yet your soul remembers it. This is the first doorway, and once you pass through, everything begins to unravel in the best and worst ways. You are no longer operating solely in the physical realm. You are tuning into frequencies that were always present but previously muted. Now they are loud, alive, demanding your attention. You'll begin to notice more synchronicities, repeating numbers, animals appearing in patterns, strange dreams that carry coded messages. The veil between the worlds is thinning not just for a moment, but permanently. Your spiritual eyes are opening, and the illusion of time, perhaps the greatest illusion of all, is the first veil to fall. So if you've been feeling like you're floating through days, losing your grip on the calendar, or sensing that time itself has turned to liquid, know this: you're not losing your mind. You're stepping into the mind of the universe. This is the beginning of your metamorphosis. And like all beginnings, it comes with disorientation, awe, and surrender. Let the structure break. Let the rhythm change, and let the old systems collapse. Because only when the illusion of time collapses can the truth of your timelessness emerge. 2. When your body begins to reject your old life. There comes a moment in the awakening journey where the shift is no longer just a whisper in your thoughts or a flicker in your dreams. It moves deeper, into your flesh, into your breath, into your cells, and what begins as an inexplicable unease becomes a full body revolt. You wake up one morning and something feels off. Not broken, not sick, just wrong. The kind of wrong you can't quite explain. A subtle but persistent weight in your chest. A strange tightness in your throat. Muscles that ache even when you've done nothing strenuous. Foods you once enjoyed suddenly make your stomach churn. Your skin breaks out. Your digestion turns sluggish. You feel bloated, heavy, agitated for no clear reason. At first, you dismiss it as stress, maybe, hormones, something you ate. But as the days go by and the discomfort deepens, you begin to realize this isn't a passing issue. It's not random. It's intelligent. It's targeted. Your body is rejecting your old life. This is not a metaphor. This is not an exaggeration. This is cellular truth. Because when a soul is preparing to step fully into its divine path, into its highest timeline, the body becomes a gatekeeper. It begins to sense what no longer aligns. And instead of tolerating it, it begins to purge it. This can be terrifying if you don't know what's happening. You might think you're getting sick, or worse, falling apart. But what's really happening is that you are detoxing the false self, the version of you that was built on survival, compromise, people-pleasing, fear, repetition. That version no longer fits. And your body knows it. You start reacting to spaces you used to frequent, the office, the gym, The same old coffee shop. Suddenly, just being there feels energetically violent. You feel drained, heavy, anxious, even nauseous. It's not anxiety. It's incompatibility. You feel exhausted at the thought of a meeting with someone who once lit up your day. You can barely force yourself to make small talk with people who used to feel like friends. Your body pulls back. It hesitates. It resists. Not because it's malfunctioning, but because it's remembering. Your nervous system, your immune system, your gut, your heart. These are not just biological components. They are spiritual instruments, and they're becoming finely tuned to frequencies of truth, harmony, and purpose. Anything misaligned begins to feel like static, like noise, like poison. That doesn't mean those places or people are inherently bad. It means you're vibrating at a new level, and what once was nourishing is now neutral or even toxic. This phase is brutal because the body doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat, it doesn't rationalize like the mind. It simply reacts, honestly, rawly, and sometimes painfully. But here's what most don't understand about awakening. It's not just emotional, it's somatic. Your physical form, bone, blood, breath is the temple through which your soul experiences this dimension. And if that temple is cluttered with energy that no longer resonates, it will begin the process of renovation, sometimes softly, sometimes violently. You might feel sudden waves of fatigue that seem to paralyze you. You may sleep for 12 hours and wake up tired. You may experience unexplainable headaches, body chills, strange surges of adrenaline, or heaviness in your chest when you enter certain spaces. This is your inner compass recalibrating. It's trying to teach you one thing. Pay attention to how your body responds. It knows before your mind does. And this isn't just about spaces. It's about habits, foods, routines. Your old schedule may now feel unbearable. You might find that even your cravings change your body, no longer wanting caffeine or sugar, or perhaps craving grounding foods like root vegetables or raw fruit. Listen, because the more you resist, the louder the signals become. Your body will speak in discomfort, and if you ignore it, it will shout in dysfunction. This is not punishment, this is initiation. Your body is not trying to ruin your plans, it's trying to reveal your path. And yes, you'll be tempted to push through it, to numb the sensations, to get back to normal. But the truth is, normal is gone. You're not meant to return to it. You're meant to evolve. The body has memory, deep memory, memory from this life and others. Memory stored in the fascia, the gut, the spine. As your soul begins to purge the old patterns, your body follows suit. Emotions stored in your liver begin to release. Traumas stored in your hips start to surface. Cellular imprints of past pain begin to vibrate their way out, and you may cry, or scream, or shake, or feel like you're losing your mind. But you're not. You're releasing lifetimes. You're shedding versions of yourself you didn't even know you were carrying. You're making space for the real you to arrive. And in that space, the body begins to heal not just from illness, but from spiritual amnesia. It starts to become lighter, sharper, clearer. You feel more energy after being in nature. You crave solitude. You drink water with reverence. You move more intuitively. You stop forcing. You start flowing. This is not a diet. This is not a wellness routine. This is sacred embodiment. And as you move through it, remember, your body is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It's the vessel of your soul. And right now, it's trying to guide you out of what no longer serves you into the life you were meant to live. So rest, hydrate, trust, and most importantly, stop negotiating your well-being for acceptance. performance, or comfort. If your body flinches, listen. If your breath shortens, listen. If your heart tightens, listen. These aren't glitches, these are sacred signals. Let your body lead. It knows the way. Even when your mind doubts, even when your past clings, even when the world tells you to toughen up and push through. Because this isn't weakness, this is rebirth, and your body is already preparing the way. 3. The collapse of the human game. Something strange happens after the body begins rejecting your old life. It doesn't just end in physical symptoms or environmental discomfort. It seeps deeper into your motivations, your ambitions, your attachments. And one morning, almost without warning, you wake up disinterested, not tired, not depressed, not apathetic, but curiously disengaged. The things that once stirred your fire, climbing the ladder, chasing recognition, keeping up appearances, collecting followers, attending events, begin to lose their flavor. Like food that's gone bland, like music that no longer moves you. You scroll through your phone and feel numb. You overhear conversations and they sound artificial. You walk into work and feel like you've stepped onto a stage play in which everyone is still acting. But you've forgotten your lines. This isn't failure, this isn't laziness, this is your soul withdrawing its energy from illusion. Because the human game, as we've been taught to play it, is breaking down. The game of chasing approval, the game of comparing timelines, the game of collecting stuff, performing identity, proving worth, the game of always reaching, never arriving, and now, your higher self is unplugging from it. At first, this is disorienting. You may question your own drive. You may wonder, why don't I care anymore? Or worse, am I giving up? But this isn't giving up, it's waking up. You are realizing that many of the things you once pursued were not born of soul, but of programming. Social scripts handed down through culture, family, media, survival. Scripts like, be productive or you're not valuable. Be liked or you're not lovable. Be successful or you're not safe. And now, those scripts are dissolving, and with them, your urge to perform them. This is the spiritual symptom no one warns you about, the sacred disillusionment. It feels like a void, a hollowing out, but in truth, it's the most honest thing you've felt in a long time. You are no longer interested in pretending, no longer interested in impressing, no longer willing to sacrifice your truth to win a game you were never meant to play. And it's painful, because this game has rewards, applause, likes, money, belonging. But you start to see through them. You start to feel the emptiness behind the metrics. You start to recognize that chasing what everyone else wants doesn't guarantee it's what you want. So you stop, not because you're broken, but because you're evolving. And in that pause, a new craving begins to awaken. A craving for truth, for stillness, for depth, for something you can't quite name yet, but that feels more real than anything you've touched in years. This is when the real work begins, not in doing more, but in unbecoming, in shedding the layers of persona that were never really you. The achiever, the pleaser, the competitor, the overthinker, the one who needed validation to feel worthy. You begin to see that your worth was never tied to your output, that your value was never measured in accolades, that your purpose was never to keep up, it was to wake up. And waking up requires stillness, space, emptiness. It's why so many chosen ones, at this phase, feel lost. Because for the first time, you are not numbing yourself with busyness. You are not escaping yourself with distractions. You are sitting in the space between, the space where the false self dies and the true self is yet to emerge. It's a quiet crucible, a sacred dismantling, and it often comes with guilt. You feel bad for pulling away from friends. You feel ashamed for not being productive. You feel confused about who you are without the roles you've always played. But this confusion is clarity in disguise. This guilt is the ego's final grip, because the soul is ready to live differently, to move from truth instead of performance, to create from inspiration instead of pressure, to serve from alignment instead of obligation. You may find yourself craving sunts, long walks alone, less stimulation, deeper conversations. You may start writing again, painting, meditating, gardening, or simply sitting and staring at the sky, activities that don't earn applause, but reconnect you to something ancient inside. And even though the world may call this phase unproductive, it is the most productive thing you can do for your soul, because you're not just resting, you're remembering. You're remembering that you are not a brand, you are not a cog in the machine. You are not here to win, hustle, or outperform. You are here to become fully, sacredly yourself. And that can't happen when you're constantly proving something. That only happens when you strip away what's false. So let the old games go, let the old drives fade, and let yourself feel bored, unmotivated, confused. This is not regression, it is recalibration. You are shedding the desire for attention and learning to crave alignment. You are losing interest in the surface and being pulled into the depths. You are remembering that your soul doesn't speak in metrics, it speaks in meaning. And that craving you feel, that deep, restless whisper for something more, that's your calling. Not to do more, but to be more real, to walk a path that no one sees, but that your spirit knows by heart. So if nothing excites you anymore, don't panic. If you feel disconnected from the hustle, don't force it. If you no longer care about what others think, don't apologize. That's not a failure, that's freedom. You're not broken. You're just done pretending. This is the collapse of the human game and the beginning of something true. For emotional volatility and the purge of old wounds. Before a soul fully anchors into its awakened state, there is a storm, not always external. Often, it's hidden beneath the ribs, inside the breath, in the quietest places where emotions lie buried. And then, like a sudden tide, they rise. One moment you're fine, the next, you're sobbing over a song you haven't heard in years. Or staring out a window, your chest full of grief that doesn't belong to this day, this hour, or even this life. Rage flares up uninvited. Laughter turns into tears. Peace shatters into panic for no visible reason. You begin to feel like a walking contradiction. Joy and sorrow fused. Stillness and chaos coexisting. You ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling everything all at once? The answer, you're not losing control, you're releasing containment. You're not overreacting. You're over suppressing, and now that suppression is breaking. This is one of the most misunderstood stages of spiritual awakening. It's not the mind that begins to panic. It's the emotional body beginning to purge. And it does so with the force of everything you've repressed, denied, dismissed, minimized, or inherited. Because before you step into your final awakening, your soul cannot carry the weight of unprocessed emotion. It cannot ascend with emotional debris weighing down the field. So it initiates a cleansing, a deep, cellular, multi-lifetime detox. What rises may not make sense to your conscious mind. You'll feel pain with no context, guilt that has no anchor, grief for a relationship you ended years ago or never even had. You may feel the wounds of your ancestors vibrating through your nervous system, the grief of lineages, the shame of forgotten voices, the sorrow of karmic memory. And it will feel like too much because it is too much for the old you. But the truth is, your new frequency demands that no residue remain, that no distortion is left unchecked, that every fragment of pain be acknowledged not for judgment, but for liberation. So don't run from it. Don't label yourself too sensitive. Don't try to get over it. Instead, let yourself be with it. Let the tears come. Let the anger rise. Let your body shake. These are not malfunction. These are sacred expressions of ancient memory being transmuted into light. Your sadness is not regression. It is sacred remembering. Your anger is not toxicity. It is boundary reactivation. Your confusion is not weakness. It is ego collapse. Think of it as emotional vomiting, not pleasant, not elegant, but absolutely necessary. Your soul is rejecting what no longer serves its evolution. That pain you feel isn't a punishment, it's the friction of old timelines being closed out. And when those timelines collapse, the energy they held has to move. Emotion is energy in motion. It must be felt to be released. That's why you can't think your way through this. You must feel your way through. Sit with the waves. Cry when they come. Yell if you must, write what hurts. Breathe like it's the only language left. You are not falling apart. You are falling open. Your emotional system is being rewired to feel in new frequencies, frequencies of presence, intuition, truth, and resonance. And the more you resist, the longer the pain lingers. But the more you allow, the faster it moves. This phase requires tremendous courage, because society teaches us to suppress, to distract, to medicate, to keep calm and carry on. But your soul is not interested in appearances. It wants integrity. It wants truth. And truth requires that you feel what you were taught to hide. So when your emotions swing like pendulums, don't try to stabilize them with logic. Don't police them. Don't numb them. Just witness. Just hold space. Let the tears baptize you. Let the rage purify you. Let the grief unearth what you've buried. And know this: these emotions are not who you are. They are what you've carried. And once felt, they can be set down. Once honored, they can be released. You'll begin to notice that after a storm of emotion, a strange peace follows. A quiet, a clarity, as if a veil has lifted, as if your heart has grown larger. That's because it has. Every wave of feeling, once processed, expands your emotional capacity. You begin to feel more, but suffer less. You begin to love deeper without attachment, to empathize without enmeshment, to speak with both strength and softness. This is emotional sovereignty, and it is one of the final thresholds before full awakening. But don't rush it. This isn't a race, it's a spiral. Some emotions come in waves, others in layers. Some are ready to go now. Others will circle back months from now, ready for a deeper release. That's okay. Let healing have its rhythm. Let your soul set the pace. And if you feel too much, rest. If you feel raw, retreat. If you feel like no one understands, trust that others on the path are feeling it too. Even if they don't say it. Even if they can't explain it. You are not alone in your intensity. You are not the only one crying at midnight for reasons unknown. You are part of a wave of remembrance sweeping across the world, one heart at a time. Let this comfort you. Let this be your anchor. Let this remind you that your sensitivity is not a flaw, it is a portal. So when the next emotional tide rises, don't resist. Welcome it as a teacher. Receive it as a gift. Move with it like water, because every tear, every ache, every sacred tremble is the sound of your soul coming home. The sacred severing. When people leave and contracts end, there's a silence that arrives after the emotional storm. Not the peace of finality, but the hush before another shift, a deeper one. And in that hush, you begin to notice something else unraveling your relationships. People you thought would be with you forever start to fade. Some stop calling, others seem distant. Interactions grow tense, strained, or oddly shallow. Invitations dry up. Words that once flowed now fall flat. You may look at someone you've known for years and wonder, who are you? And what are we still doing in each other's lives? It feels like abandonment, rejection, confusion. You might even spiral into self-blame. Did I do something wrong? Was it me? But this is not failure. This is soul-level recalibration. Because as your frequency rises, your energetic field begins to shed what no longer supports your evolution. And that includes people, even the ones you love, especially the ones you love. This is one of the hardest spiritual symptoms to endure, the sacred severing. It's not just breakups or ghostings, it's the dissolving of energetic contracts that have run their course. Some people were meant to walk beside you for only a season, a chapter, a lesson, a mirror, and once their role in your awakening is fulfilled, the universe begins to gently or abruptly remove them. Not out of punishment, not out of cruelty, but to create space for the next phase of your soul's mission. And that space, though necessary, can feel like a wound. You'll miss them, their presence, the history, the inside jokes, the way they made you feel seen even when it was only part of you they truly saw. And that grief will ache in places you didn't know could hold sorrow. Because this is not just letting go of people, it's letting go of versions of yourself that existed in their presence. But listen closely. Behind the pain, there is a whisper, a sacred echo. They were part of your awakening, not your destiny. Some people are karmic. Some people are catalysts. Some people are companions only to a certain altitude. And now, as your soul ascends, not everyone has the wings to follow. This is not spiritual elitism. This is not ego. This is energetic law. Vibrations seek resonance. When there is dissonance, separation follows, not to hurt you, but to honor alignment. And yes, it will hurt, because human love is sticky, because loyalty runs deep, because memory clings. But if you try to hold on, if you force connections that have expired, you'll feel it. In your gut, in your chest, in your spirit. The friction, the fatigue, the ache of spiritual suffocation. And your body will try to warn you. With anxiety, with sadness, with an invisible wall you can't seem to tear down, no matter how hard you try. That's not failure. That's guidance. Your soul is saying, this is not your tribe anymore. This frequency no longer fits. Release, so you can rise. This phase requires the deepest trust, the kind that hurts, the kind that doesn't come with answers, the kind that asks you to let go of what was, with no guarantee of what will be. But something sacred happens when you surrender to the severing. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more sovereign. You stop shrinking to fit old dynamics. You stop tolerating half presence, half truth, half love. You start becoming magnetic to your soul family. These are the ones who recognize you instantly, who speak your language without translation, who don't just hear your word, but feel your frequency. They arrive not to fill your loneliness, but to amplify your wholeness, not to complete you, but to witness you in your completeness. And they don't arrive until the old cords are cut, until the contracts are dissolved, until your field is clear. This is why letting go matters. Not to be alone, but to become available for the next level of connection, of intimacy, of spiritual resonance. So if people are leaving, let them. If conversations grow cold, bless them. If bonds unravel, breathe through it. You are not being punished, you are being repositioned sometimes. The most sacred thing you can do is release with love, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for your soul. Cry if you need to. Write the letter you'll never send. Hold space for the grief, but don't chase what's falling away. Trust that every departure is making space for a new arrival, and not just of people, but of versions of you that you couldn't access while surrounded by distortion. You'll find that once you let go, parts of you return. Your laughter, your lightness, your clarity, your creativity. You begin to remember who you were before you were shaped by their expectations. And even more beautifully, you begin to meet who you're becoming. So don't fear the sacred severing. Honor it. Let it be the ceremony it is, a funeral of the false, a birthing of the real. Because on the other side of that heartbreak is the resonance your soul has been calling in for lifetimes, and it's already making its way to you. 6. The emergence of divine knowing, the quiet truth that you're meant for more. It doesn't arrive with trumpets. It doesn't shout, perform, or demand applause. In fact, if you're not listening, you might miss it altogether. And yet, it's the most profound moment in your awakening, the emergence of a knowing so quiet. It speaks in stillness, a knowing so vast, it echoes through your bone. You can't explain it, you can't prove it, and you certainly can't deny it. It moves like a whisper through your breath, a subtle vibration in your chest, a sentence that appears in your thoughts. Something is coming, and I am a part of it. At first, it feels like a question, a distant hum. Then, slowly, it becomes a certainty. You are meant for something more. Not more money, not more success, not more attention, but more truth, more purpose, more soul. And this truth doesn't arrive because you finally accomplished something. It doesn't bloom from doing. It emerges from being emptied. After the illusions collapse, after the roles fade, after the emotions purge, after the people leave, in that sacred, aching space where you feel like nothing is left, something begins to glow. A presence, a voice, a pull. It doesn't give you a 5-step plan. It doesn't hand you a mission statement, but it wraps itself around your spirit like warm light, like a hand on your back, like a star just beneath your skin. It's the reawakening of remembrance. You begin to feel it most in moments of stillness, just before you fall asleep, as you walk in silence. When you close your eyes and exhale, you suddenly sense that your life, no matter how chaotic, confusing, or off track it has seemed, has been leading somewhere. That every detour, every heartbreak, every silence had a purpose. That there was always a thread, and you're finally beginning to see it. This knowing will not always make sense to your logical mind. That's because it doesn't come from there. It comes from the blueprint of your soul, the part of you that existed before you had a name, before you had a body, before you ever played the human game. And this part of you remembers. It remembers your assignment. It remembers your gifts. It remembers why you chose this life, this time, this body. Even if your mind can't name it yet. Your soul has already reactivated it, and it's drawing you now, pulling you towards situations, messages, synchronicities, books, visions, and people that are coded with clues. You may find yourself obsessed with a subject you never cared about before, drawn to ancient wisdom, sacred texts, or spiritual tools. You may suddenly feel the urge to create, to write, to speak, to build, to travel, not because of ambition, but because of alignment. This is what happens when the veil lifts, when the soul steps forward, when your mission begins to whisper, then speak, then roar. And yet, for many, this knowing brings a strange ache, a restlessness, a hunger for clarity. You want to know what's coming. You want to see the full picture. You want the vision to be delivered, whole and perfect. But that's not how this path works. The soul reveals itself in layers, like moonlight on water, like a map that unfolds as you walk. You don't get the destination before the departure. You get the next step and the courage to take it. This is why trust becomes essential. Not blind trust, not forced trust, but soul trust, the kind that lives in your cells, not just your affirmations. You begin to trust that the emptiness is a container, that the silence is a conversation, that the unknown is not a void but a womb. And in that trust, something shifts. You stop chasing. You stop proving. You stop trying to figure it out. Instead, you begin to listen, to surrender, to align. You realize that your job isn't to control the awakening, it's to allow it, to stop resisting the waves, to become a vessel for what wants to come through. And when you live from that place, the world begins to shift in ways you can't explain. You find yourself in the right place at the right time. People appear who feel like old friends from other lifetimes. You speak, and truth flows out that you didn't rehearse. You touch, and healing happens. You follow an intuitive nudge, and it opens a doorway you couldn't have imagined. You begin to live not from the mind, but from the field of soul, the field of divine intelligence, the field of universal orchestration. And you feel deeply that this is what you were born for. Not to conform, not to survive, not to perform, but to remember, to awaken, and to embody truth so fully that your life becomes an instrument of healing. That voice inside you, that one that keeps repeating, you're meant for more. It's not your ego, it's your essence, G. And it's not asking you to rush, it's not asking you to panic, it's asking you to listen, to surrender, to begin. So start where you are, with what you know, with the light that's been placed in your hands. Speak your truth, honor your rhythm, follow the energy, not the outcome, and trust that the rest will unfold. Because the final awakening is not a bolt of lightning. It is 1,000 sacred flickers. It is every choice to align with soul. It is every breath taken in devotion to truth. And when you live that way, something ancient unlocks. You don't just remember who you are. You become who you were always meant to be.